You guys want to see a dead body? Because we're about to dive back into the corpse that is the 2024 Minnesota Twins. Where else did it all go wrong? Manuel Margot, team defense, left-handed pitching. It's time for Twins Autopsy Part 4. Let's get locked on Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to destination for the top Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. Personally, it's my favorite show of the Locked On Podcast Network, which, by the way, brings you your team
every day.
I'm co-host Dave Brown, a professional ball writer since 1998, a BBWA member since 2012, and a professional a baseball Hall of Fame voter, and I guess a professional Hall of Fame voter since this year. Please follow me on Twitter at Answer Dave Brown if you like. Across from me in cyberspace is Brandon Warren, a Twins watcher for 30 years, who not long ago covered the team on a daily basis professionally, and even sometimes still breaks news that maybe he should get credit for.
Yes.
He asked that you elevate the discourse with him on Twitter at Brandon_Warren. Is that your new old handle?
That's the new. It's
That's
the old
new handle.
Well, it was
at
old.
Brandon_Warren. Capital Brandon, capital Warren with an E at the end.
Yep.
Anyway, here's what's coming up on this podcast. Twins Autopsy Part 4. We'll look at a key offseason addition who became a not quite everyday player, but close enough. And he became absolute poison against right-handed pitching. And he was bad on defense, too, against everyone. Speaking of defense, the Twins regressed there most places, although not at first base, according to the Gold Glove business, or a catcher when Christian Vasquez played. The Twins didn't use left-handed pitchers a lot because they knew the ones they had weren't good. But they were around, and the team had so little margin for error that even a little went a long way to cement their final standing outside of the playoffs. Every little bit helps. Before we look into all the gory details, let's bring in Brandon to tell us who is bringing us this episode.
Well, good afternoon, sports fans. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase.
Manuel Margot, a favorite target of Twins Twitter, which sometimes goes overboard a little bit. In the end, I don't think Twins Twitter went overboard on Margot. Some people were meaner about it than others. Greg Masterson, in a backhanded mean way, called him Magoo, which was funny because it's a funny word, but also because he was a bad outfielder and almost certainly couldn't see right-handed pitching either. So like Mr. Magoo couldn't see. It all made sense in the end. Acquired February 26, 2024, traded by the Los Angeles Dodgers with Rain Doncon, who's in the minors and actually who looks like could be a pretty good prospect. He just turned 21 in Upper A. We'll keep an eye on young Rain. And cash for Noah Miller and the minors. So who's in the minors? It's that's going to be an interesting trade to see if there's a couple more major leaguers in it. But in the meantime, Manuel Margot was on the Twins. And they got him to face left-handed pitching and to play defense. But he did not play defense very well. He was actually one of the lesser outfielders in the league, let's just say. And against right-handed pitching, he absolutely tanked. 257, 283, 540 OPS, 540 in 84 games. And 172 plate appearances. That's 72% below 47% below league average. In 28 games with a right-handed starting pitcher. So this is not all against right-handed pitching, but when a right-hander started the game and he started 28 games, 152 batting average, 209 batting average, 422 OPS. Again, that's Manuel Margot in 28 starts and 178 plate appearances when a right-hander started the game. That is not like me going up there because I would have zeros unless like I pull an Eddie Goodell. But it was so bad that he became toxic against right-handed pitching. And it's one thing when you're talking about players like Matt Wallner or Trevor Larnach or whomever, pick your lefty, and they go in and they're not any good against left-handed batters. Usually they'll be pinch hit for, but sometimes Rocco or whoever the manager is, Sparky Anderson even, would find them at bats against left-handed pitchers, which is not ideal, but sometimes that's just how the game goes. And they wouldn't get on base, basically. People would complain, you got to let Warner go out there and try more, get more time in against lefties. That's not really how it works because he's already got a lot of time in the minor leagues. The Twins have a book on how Matt Wallner cannot really hit left-handed pitching very well. Now, things like that, I suppose, could change, but it's something where it's going to take years and off seasons and practice time in between games. Max Kepler sometimes can be good against left-handed pitching and has been better at times. So it's not that it doesn't happen. It could happen. But the problem is that there are many more right-handed pitchers than there are lefties. And if you have a right-handed batter, who has a big platoon difference, that is going to hurt you a lot more than the lefty is going to hurt you against left-handed batters. Manuel Margot was absolutely ridiculously bad against right-handed pitching. And when he's at the top of the lineup and, Royce Lewis is coming up next, Buxton, Correa, whatever, he's not setting the table for anybody other than the other team when he's in the game. This is just another one of those things that down the stretch absolutely killed the Twins. They didn't have any margin for error. They missed the playoffs by 4 games, but it was really 1 or 2. The last couple that they blew at the end of the season don't matter very much. And Margot playing as much as he did against right-handed pitchers, which is inevitable because there are too many of them to worry about. He's going to get in there against righties, and he was absolutely terrible. And he was not a good outfielder. And we'll talk more about the Twins' defense overall in the next segment. But Manuel Margot did end up, for all the talk that I had, they got him for a reason to play against left-handed pitching, and he was really good against lefties. He was.
103 weighted runs created plus.
Yes. And against starters in 42 starts in games where a left-handed pitcher started. So this is a little skewed, but in 42 starts overall, he hit 331, 376, 470 in games started by left-handed pitching. So
basically take away his pinch hitting, which was historically bad, and he was a capable everyday player against lefties.
Yes. But the problem is, and we joked about his pinch hitting, that was only 30 or 40 plate appearances. And it was, pinch hitting is, you just can't expect a guy to get a pinch hit ever almost, no matter who it is, no matter how good they are.
Yeah.
But his time against right-handed pitching killed them. You can't have a right-handed batter who can't hit right-handed pitching. You can have a lefty who can't hit lefties. That's okay. But to have this guy in there where right-handed pitchers are coming in was absolute poison. And his defense was bad. There was an injury in spring training or something with Margot that they never really specified, or the beat reporters who don't give credit to people who break stories other than themselves did not pursue whatever was wrong with Manuel Margot, because there was some injury early in the season that affected his defense. Or maybe he's just getting old and out of shape. I don't know. He's 29. He ain't that old. But he was a net negative for the Twins for those reasons.
The idea of Manuel Margot made sense. It's just that if the lefties aren't going to be around enough to play against righties, or plate appearances against righties creep in where you can't always shield a guy. Like, the way you manage a roster is not as easy as just how it looks on paper. And in turn, Margot had 172 plate appearances against righties. Now, that's 14th on the team, so it may not seem like all that significant. But again, you look at it, that is anywhere from 25 to 30 games of regular taking plate appearances against pitchers that you have a 54 weighted runs created plus against, or WRC plus if you're looking for the abbreviation. By comparison, Christian Vasquez against righties had a 60 weighted runs created plus. So if you felt like against lefties, Vasquez against lefties had a 60, he had a 63 against righties. So horse apiece, really. But again, like him getting this many plate appearances against righties completely invalidates the reason for bringing him in the first place. So again, the idea maybe made sense. And again, too, if you look down the list, beneath him in plate appearances against righties, Alex Kirilloff, 170, so 2 behind him, Brooks Lee, Kyle Farmer, and then guys like Deshaun Kiersey. If Alex Kirilloff plays as much as you hope he does, that probably cuts into this plate appearance disparity issue, whatever, considerably. I mean, maybe you can get Kirilloff up to 300 and that drops Margot down to 40 or 50. Now, I don't know how much of a difference that makes. Kirilloff had an 86 weighted runs created plus against righty, so it wasn't like he lit the world on fire, but that's still 32% better than Margot. So again, like I get the theory of it, and I get not wanting to pull the plug on it if you've kind of made the acquisition and you feel like you're also stuck financially with all other resources. But at the end of the day, I still lament the fact that they did not bring in the cat from
Seattle, Washington, the guy who got a contract extension after Victor Robles.
I don't know why I can't remember him.
I don't know why you were beating that drum. You should remember Victor Robles every day of your life.
Victor Robles, yeah. I got confused with Michael A. Taylor, who was the Twin before. So
you were on Victor Robles like you were on the Twins hitting coach, and you didn't get credit for that either.
Well, it is what it is.
So yeah, and it wasn't so much. I mean, the problem with Margot was almost as much the fact that other guys got hurt. Again, this is kind of the Willie Castro syndrome. They had to use him more against righties, 1. And 2, the lineup just was not good enough to sustain itself with all these guys who had these ridiculous splits. Statistically, you're good having a guy like Margot who can hit lefties. The problem is you're just not going to see enough lefties to make it worth it, especially when you got to leave him in there against right-handed pitching very often at the top of the order, getting more at bats per game than other people. And
late in the game.
What's that?
And late in the game, too.
Yes. So not to just drag poor Margot through the ringer forever, but that didn't work. And but speaking of work, we're going to put our sponsors to work right now with a commercial break.
Well, we love our friends at Game Time. And if you're trying to get down to a Lynx game at Target Center here in the WNBA Finals, I can't think of a better place to go than Game Time. You got to download that Game Time app and search for Minneapolis, St. Paul, or if you're in where Dave is, Kansas City. But find your little market where you are, and it'll list every event you can find tickets to in your area. Again, Lynx in the finals against New York. It's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be entertaining. And we're hoping that the Lynx can bring the title home. If you're going to use Game Time, I would highly recommend toggling that all-in feature that you can, where it tells you the exact price you're going to pay at the end of the transaction. No bait and switch, none of that fun stuff on the back end where you find out a $20 ticket is really $38 or something like that. They also have those panoramic seat views. So if you're sitting in row X at Target Center, which I did see on the app as an available row. I didn't even know that was a row in the 200 section or 200 level, but more I guess. If you want to get up there, you can see what it's going to look like all the way up there if you're watching ants play basketball, or if you're actually going to be able to see anything. But again, that panoramic seat view is clutch. The lowest price guarantee. Also, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find the ticket cheaper elsewhere, and you are covered by the most flexible customer support service policy in the game today. It's Game Time's ticket coverage. Check it out. Take the guesswork out of buying concert, sports, and all other types of tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
WNBA going to 7-game finals next season. So these are precious fewer opportunities to see these teams in the finals than there will be. It'll be expanded, which is good because they should play best out of 7, and there'll be more chances in the future. But right now, you got to get those tickets. So get Game Time so you can watch the series while you have an opportunity.
That Lynx team is crazy good too. So highly recommend. The games are, I think they're nationally televised too. I think ABC had game 2. So got to check it out.
One of the best basketball games I've seen all season was a professional WNBA game between Caitlin Clark's Indiana team and the Chicago Sky with Angel Reese.
You caught the fever.
I did catch the fever. It was a lot of fun too. And it was a very well played game, and the game has come a heck of a long way in the last 25 years. It was a good game 25 years ago when they started the WNBA. It's even almost 30 at this point.
Yeah,
it's even better now. The skill level, the passing, the 3-point shooting, the defense, the toughness, the athleticism really shines. So that's what you guys need to do is utilize Game Time and go see a WNBA game. And even if it is the Target Center high up, didn't Royce Lewis sit up there for a Karl Anthony Towns game at some point during the playoffs? So
last year, yeah. Well, this year, but last basketball season, this baseball season, yeah, it was up there wearing his like red parachute pants or something like that.
So, do as Royce Lewis does, which on defense this year, Brandon, not that great.
No.
The defense overall for the Twins, in case you're just joining us, we are doing Autopsy Part 4, where we dive into the dead body of the Twins and figure out why it went wrong. And one of the reasons was their defense was not very good, with a few exceptions, those being likely Gold Glove winner Carlos Santana at first base. Whenever Christian Vasquez would catch, he would be very good. Typically behind the plate, and everyone else was Brooks Lee was not bad at second. Other than that, it was like, and Byron Buxton was pretty good, not as good as he has been in his life as far as defensive runs saved, but certainly better than anybody else in the team. He was a +2 if you look at Fielding Bible, which I do a lot. Some people go to StatCast, and I look there as well, but I look at Fielding Bible first, and Buxton had 2 defensive runs saved in about 100 games played in the outfield. Next best guys, Wallner, Kepler, Larnick, and Kersey at, they're only 36 innings at 0. They were neither here nor there on defense. Kirilloff, -2. Willie Castro, -6. Gold Glove candidate Willie Castro, -6. Austin Martin, -13 in the outfield. So not so good. Infield, it was kind of the same thing. You had Santana at +8. Jose Miranda was neutral. Brooks Lee was +1 thanks to second base. Certainly not thanks to short. Austin Martin, a 0. So very neutral at second base. The Twins will take it. And then you get into the negatives. Royce Lewis, -2. Kirilloff, -2. Carlos Correa, -3. Kyle Farmer, -4. Edouard Julien, -6. Willie Castro, -12. And then the other catcher, Ryan Jeffers, -4, mostly because of framing. So he got framed. If you want to look at
pretty negative everywhere.
Yeah, it was. I didn't look at pictures. I don't. It's not that I don't care, but
no, I mean Willie, not really Willie.
Willie everywhere. I thought you meant something else everywhere.
No. So did he really stand out anywhere? You said negative whatever in the outfield, negative whatever in the infield. I don't know.
It's true.
Has glove will travel. I don't know if that means you should get some hardware.
Right. I don't know. It's you know what? I think, he was negative. It's in the outfield. I think at third base, he was pretty good. Okay. I think he might have been like a -1 at third base. So not bad. He has a good arm.
Indulge me here. If you go into next year with first base shaking out between, let's say, Kirilloff, Miranda, back of your mind, Julien. Second base is between Lee and Julian with Castro as a fallback. Shortstop is Correa with Castro as a fallback. Third base is Lewis with Miranda, Castro, whoever else as a fallback. Like, if you convince yourself that could work, can you kind of like concentrate your efforts on something else? Like, do you think you could make it the case that the infield is okay for right now? Again, it's not going to be good defensively unless Carlos Correa comes back and does what he needs to do. But I also look at it, I'm like, they have enough bodies. If guys just figure things out, they could be okay.
Bodies is an interesting word to use, Brandon.
We're talking about Autopsy, aren't we?
Yes. Yeah, for that and just for other connotations. You floated the idea of Paul Goldschmidt. I don't know how you would fit this in money-wise, but I think Paul Goldschmidt has a Gold Glove reputation. He's probably not as good anymore as Santana, but then again, Santana's pushing 39. You said, well, can you put Miranda and Kirilloff at first base? And I worry about Miranda, not because of his defense, which was surprisingly okay, but at third. But I worry about, well, why didn't he hit the second half? Why did he have almost no home runs? He had no power. What's the injury? What's the injury there? Or
lefty's killing him makes no sense.
Yes. I mean, and sometimes that happens in a season where a guy where lefties figure out a little bit and you got to readjust. I worry about that and the overall as far as, well, how good of he's not a prospect anymore, but what can they get out of Miranda? And Kirilloff, you can't go into a season expecting him to take half the playing time at first base. I mean, it's just that's not a great idea.
To belabor the point, though, I feel like you'd have to pay the Goldie legend tax, where it's like with Torrey Hunter, when he came back, it was $12 million. You're like, whoa, is he worth that? I feel like with Goldie, even if he only performs like Carlos Santana did, you're not getting him for $6-7 million. You're going to have to pay.
Oh no! I mean, he's probably $20 million. I mean, that's what the arbitration number is. I don't know what he made last year, but it would be a short contract, but it would be a decent amount of money. And from what we hear about where the sale is with the team, not to get ourselves on a different show, it doesn't see, if I were worried a little less about money, that's the guy I would go for, because
feels like Jose Abreu again, though.
Maybe, but Goldschmidt was a better player than Jose Abreu in his prime.
True. Yeah.
Goldschmidt's a Hall of Fame on a Hall of Fame track. I don't know if he's going to get there,
right?
But he's close, and he's he's better. So, and he played well at the end of last year. In the second half, he was a much better run producer than he was before, and he's going to leave. He's going to be available. I don't know if the Twins are, I mean, not to get depressed, but I don't know if they're going to spend money on anybody. But if I were spending, he's a right-handed hitter. There it is again. He solidifies first base. I don't think with the rest of the infield the way it is with Royce Lewis, we don't know what's up with Royce Lewis. We're not sure. Is Carlos Correa trending toward third base? Who would play short? I like Brooksley at second, but that's still, we have a whole left side of the infield here. Catching is weird because Vasquez is getting older too for the things that he does well. Boy, this looks like a fourth place team.
Vasquez is going to wake up and just be Jose Molina one day, and that he might already be there. He might already be there.
He might.
That's
Let's
scary. Take our last break, and then we'll come back and dive into this a little more. How does that sound?
Okay.
NFL fans, FanDuel wants you to know that you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, which is America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats, scores, live play-by-play, you name it. FanDuel has it right next to where you place your bets. You can also get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Vikings favored 2.5 points against the Lions on Sunday. Over-under is just a hair under 50, so looking like they're expecting a black and blue dogfight, black and blue division, so you get what you pay for. But again, you can get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed, when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook.
In our final few minutes, we are once again looking. This is episode 4, not like A New Hope and Star Wars, not that episode 4. This is episode 4 of the Twins Autopsy for 2024. So we're diving into the dead body, and it's getting very gooey and icky. Yeah. And we the other thing that went wrong with the team was that they had left-handed pitchers, and they were all bad. Not one of them was really good. Caleb Thielbar had a few. He actually did. He had a few weeks there where he wasn't bad, but everybody else was terrible. And my thought was, well, why have any left-handed pitchers? Why bother? If you look at WAR for pitchers at Fangraphs, left-handed relief pitchers, there were only a handful. Let's see. Let's do this. The miracle of live radio podcasting, folks. 27th in left-handed reliever WAR were the Minnesota Twins. The only teams that were worse, kind of shockingly, the Rays and the Rangers. Wow. And the Blue Jays. Those were the only teams that had worse left-handed relief pitching than the Twins.
Did the Rays have a Diekman situation this year, or am I thinking of something else?
A Jake Diekman?
Yeah, maybe I'm remembering wrong, but at the end of the day, Steven Okert couldn't get people out reliably. Caleb Thielbar couldn't get people out reliably. And I still believe someone like Brent Hedrick could, I talk about you create the next Cole Sands, who I think Cole Sands could be the next Griffin Jax. Now, again, it's like when you said, hey, Glenn Perkins became a good reliever from a starter. Let's try it with Brian Dunsing. It doesn't mean they're going to be the same. It doesn't mean they're going to be as good, but you can see the general vision. Right. I think that Hedrick could be that kind of guy. I think Josh Winder could. I mean, he's a righty, so he doesn't really apply to what we're talking about right now. But I think if they can create one of those guys every year, good teams like the Rays, who we were just talking about, seem to do that. But yeah, I just think if they can create a lefty, it's going to be way better than just saying, oh, we need a lefty just to have a lefty. Not really, you don't have to force a round peg into a square hole just to have a lefty.
A few years ago, they changed the rules. So that 1-out lefty guy doesn't exist anymore. He's got to be like typically a 3-out lefty. Restrictions apply. But still, these guys were on the roster. And, it was kind of a Margot situation where there just weren't enough good left-handed batters, and the Twins relievers from the right-handed side weren't bad enough against left-handed batters to make it worth it all season. If the Twins had one thing to do over again, if you could get Rocco to be honest, I think it would be we would just not have any lefties.
Is this the reverse Manuel Margot, like a Freaky Friday Margot, where you just don't have if you don't have production from Margot against righties, just get rid of them altogether. If you can't get lefties who can get lefties or righties out, just get rid of them altogether. Just like kind of scorning the idea that you need to play the matchups when
I see going back, it's not so much that I'm like a new school guy, but when I grew up, Sparky Anderson loved platoons and Earl Weaver loved platoons. And that was like early sabermetric stuff. And actually it goes back further than that. It goes back to the Yankees in the 60s or whatever.
Do it. And I mean, Tom Kelly did it.
It's not new. Yes. Tom Kelly. Yeah. Tom Kelly did it. Let's hit that nail a little harder.
Tom Kelly, the patron saint of Twins fans of a certain age.
Right. And the success was there, but also just, realize like why things worked sometimes too. It wasn't just, he cared about things like platoon advantage. It was a little bit of a Margot situation where, you get Thielbar in the game or you get Funderburk in the game or Okert, and then they'd get a lefty out, and then the righty would come in and erase all that hard work. So it's almost like the Twins had a hard time learning the lesson about what the rule change did as far as the 1-out lefties anymore. They just weren't any good against right-handed hitters, and it killed them.
True or false, if Caleb Thielbar isn't Minnesotan, he gets DFA'd at some point in 2024?
Probably true. But they probably also think, well, who's going to replace him? And maybe I'm optimistic about Hedrick, but that's not a lot of depth. That's one guy, one really unproven minor league player. So,
and they'll probably add some left-handed pitcher that we aren't thinking of to the 40-man roster this offseason, like Jordan Carr or somebody, no relation to Jeff, I don't think. But
just imagine what now I'm blank. Tanner Scott would have done.
Yeah. Or
an actual good left-handed pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, you can do the whole we can fix Steven Okert, and even Okert's numbers at times in Miami were good. But there's something to be said about going out and just getting a guy who's proven to be good, an Andrew Miller type. Now, I don't know if that pitcher exists. However, then too, you have the issue of paying what a reliever costs and having the risk of them being bad. And so I get the whole vibe around it. But yeah, it would certainly be nice to not have to be like, boy, I hope this guy's good or this guy's good. We got that left-handed side locked down.
So, we put a lot of energy into this, and it's a tough situation. It's difficult to go back and look at all the different reasons why the Twins failed down the stretch. It's just kind of an emotional drain. But hey, that's what we do. We're podcasters, baby, and that's probably going to do it for this episode of Locked On Twins.
I think we'll have one more autopsy, Mr. Kaufman Stadium here, as we move on towards the end of the offseason. But hey, for Kaufman, this is Brandon Warren signing off, saying thank you so much. I think Dave is back. But hey, we will see ya tomorrow night.